Hello, everyone who might be listening. I won't, I'll take a little while to start up, I suppose, but just for the sake of fun, I guess, or kind of fun, I thought I would broadcast live while the vote is about to take place as to whether or not Brett Kavanaugh will become the next Supreme Court Justice of the United States. Purportedly, the vote is about to happen like right now-ish or within the next few minutes. It was supposed to be at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Pacific time, or 5 p.m. Eastern. But that schedule was apparently moved up to somewhere between 3:30 and 3:45 p.m. Eastern time. So sometime around now. I don't know if supposedly it's happening now. I haven't seen the headline come up yet saying it has completed, but the Senate is currently voting purportedly. So I've got a live feed going on of the protesters outside Capitol Hill on the Global News YouTube live stream, if anybody wants to follow along with that. Hello, Corey. Hello, the gayest person on YouTube. Hello, Mr. Shadow, Chicago Mike, Mlag, Terry Diamantis, Fernanda, Ebony, Asian Hippie, John Migda, hello. There may be guests on shortly. I'm not going to be on forever. Just thought I'd give a few minutes to babble about it. Hello, Adrian Blom. Hello, Doubting Tommy. So yeah, we're coming up upon the end of all freedom as we know it, so far as I am told. As soon as this vote completes, abortion will no longer be legal in this country. Everyone will be forced to have a gun. And apparently Donald Trump will declare himself dictator of America for life. At least that's what I've been told. I have it on good authority that is what is about to happen. So I wanted to, sort of mark the occasion with a little bit of a historical stream, so to speak. Terry Diamanda says, I think Scribe Light caught Monkey's stream addiction. No, I just call this kind of a supplementary thing to what I figured Monkey would be doing if he wasn't taking care of Grand Monkey. And I figured there might be some people out there who'd want to watch along with me, because I'm curious to see what I kind of know what the reaction will be. There's going to be a lot of hysterics and people, posturing themselves and moral rectitude over the whole thing. But, when you have an opportunity to watch something like this happen live, just for the sake of fun, I suppose you do it. Let's see who else is in the chat. So as we wait for the official tally and announcement and everything, I thought I'd just babble for a bit. And I mentioned this previously on Monkey's stream. I couldn't care less about Brett Kavanaugh getting onto the Supreme Court or not. I don't have a dog in this hunt, so to speak, save for the fact that I'm an American citizen. If it wasn't Brett Kavanaugh, it would be just some other judicial official that I'd never heard of before being put into play to be nominated. The thing that has fascinated, bewildered, and concerned me the most of this entire process has obviously been the polarization over the notion of innocent until proven guilty. Now, this isn't the first time that we've seen this, obviously, and it won't be the last. But I suppose this has been one of the more, if not the most, high-profile such instance that we've seen in several years, at least, as a sort of the most high-profile Me Too incident ever. Now, there have been a lot of celebrities, rightly or wrongly, who have been accused of doing horrendous things. In the wave of the Weinstein fallout, some people who have legitimately done bad things have been called out on it. On the other hand, you've got guys like Aziz Ansari, Chris Hardwick. These guys have been excoriated simply on the basis of an accusation. And, anybody watching that stuff could have the same notions that we've had on the show and otherwise. You don't convict somebody and you don't ruin their life over a unsubstantiated claim. But that is what happens, despite what you might want ideally, that is how things operate these days and otherwise. But all of those stories were, in relative terms, kind of low-key or minor. This is not so much. This is the one of the highest offices in the land, so to speak, the judicial branch of our government. So this brings the whole question and the whole apparent moral conundrum to the front of the American consciousness. Do you hold someone guilty on an accusation? You would have thought maybe the UVA case would have been a bucket of cold water, or the Duke lacrosse case would have been a bucket of cold water to that notion. Or even, for those who were big fans of the Netflix documentary series, Making a Murderer, where a lot of people, rightly or wrongly, think that the subject of that documentary was given a raw deal. I know a lot of people that were petitioning for that guy to be released because of what was framed in the documentary, even though by the investigator's own words, the documentary left out a whole lot of information that might have otherwise shown that guy's guilt. Either way, the idea that someone could be held to account for a crime they didn't commit is one of the horror scenarios of not only our judicial experience, but just in general. And how many stories have we had of people being wrongly convicted, serving 30 years for rape or murder or something, and only by the graces of DNA were they ever released? And what do we say when we see those stories? You know, justice was not served. The system was corrupt in this case. This man wasn't given a fair trial, et cetera, et cetera. You know, and after the revelation of such an injustice, only then do we suddenly become aware, apparently, of the importance of the notion of innocent until proven guilty. But apparently, through the process of this Kavanaugh nomination, that has gone completely out the window in favor of partisan politics. Which side of the equation are you on? Are you a liberal? Are you a conservative? Are you a Democrat? Are you a Republican? And that's a really scary thing to say, that truth is all dependent on your ideology. You know, so if Barack Obama looks up in the sky and says the sky is red, it must be true because he said so. And I know that's a extreme, you know, that's a bit of hyperbole on my part, but just to say. Who else do we have in the chat? Hi, Shady Grin, MCRN Doniger, sorry, Lewis, and Jack Gunsky, Jonathan Peterson. Hello. Let's see. I'm going to go check out CNN to see if the vote has happened yet. I don't have a live stream of C-SPAN. That's about as exciting as watching paint dry. But supposedly it's, watch live. Will CNN actually let me watch this live? Because usually they try to charge me something, or I have to log in through, I have to log in through my cable company or some bullshit. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. But anyway, I figure when the vote comes down, I will hear it through the live stream of the protesters. Let's see, and can I watch this live? No. Okay, I'm going to try to find a feed where the vote is actually taking place. Maybe I will, just for the background noise, have C-SPAN on. As exciting as that's going to be. Let's see. I presume C-SPAN has a live feed going on right now. Or not. I don't know. Let's see. C-SPAN live. No, that's all other stuff. Okay. How about Senate vote live? I mean, this shouldn't be too tough. Okay, here we go. Watch live from the Senate floor. Fox News, I'm on. Pence is talking right now. They're actually starting the vote right now. Oh, nope, it's confirmed. Right now, oh, there was 50 yeas, 48 nays. Kavanaugh's confirmed. The vote is complete. And now I'm watching to wait the news to come forward over on the protesters on the live feed. I see people sort of shrugging and going, yep, there it is. So that's it, 50 to 48. Not much else left to say about it. So, yeah, Brett Kavanaugh is now the new Supreme Court Justice of the United States, which was, you know, I won't deny it was in some doubt for a little while there, depending on which side of the equation you're on. Thank you, Snubber13. It's confirmed. Yep, it is confirmed. Irate Bear is here. Okay, I will be kind, because I am a kind man. And since he's awake and around and trying to do this solo is not necessarily the easiest thing to do. I will see if my good friend, Irate Bear, would like to come on if he's not already otherwise engaged. I know that Sinatra's streaming right now, so maybe I'm competing with him, but not intentionally. Let's see what else we got going on. I'm watching the protesters now. The camera isn't showing much crying. There's a lot of people that look like they may be exiting the scene now that the whole purpose of their protesting has effectively ended. There's still a lot of people around. They have somebody's up on, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the person speaking at the podium, it's hard to tell right now, is the lady who confronted Senator Jeff Flake in the elevator, I think. Don't quote me on that. I'm just kind of recognizing a face, but either way, let's see.
I didn't even ask for the link this time, Scribe.
Well, I know. Well, I just figured, you know, my talking voice will run out eventually, and I figured I might as well have another blowhard on here with me.
A conservative blowhard, as Vice.com would have you believe.
Oh, are you a conservative? You know, I don't like anybody, so I'm not on anybody's side.
No, I'm referencing the hit piece that Vice did on me when you and I first started.
That was your 15 minutes of fame right there. Vice made you famous.
Well, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I wouldn't consider myself to be a conservative. But Kavanaugh's been confirmed then.
Yes, and we have chants of shame, 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 shame all over the protesters. We have signs that say believe survivors. Don't let the... I don't see what the rest of that sign says. It's something about don't let the... maybe the... I don't know, get you down. I'm trying to read that. I really wish I could read that sign. It's very interesting. Anyway, yeah, so the question's over with. The only real wonderment now will be what effect this will have on the oncoming elections next month.
Mm.
Since you've had a crash course into the mechanisms of American politics, what do you think is going to happen there?
It is the midterms next month, correct?
No, next month is the vote. Oh, sorry. Well, the midterm. Sorry, I thought you meant like. Sorry, I got even I got mixed up for a second there. I was thinking of the primaries, but yes, it is the midterms. The midterm of the presidential term. Yes.
I believe you said a couple of nights ago that whenever it comes to the midterms, whoever is the ruling party tends to become quite lazy when it comes to gaining the votes for the next sort of, for the midterms or the next general election. So,
yeah, I'm not a. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was about to say, this will determine for where you get that super chat so I can get my thoughts together for a second.
Okay, thank you, Terry DeMontis. Song request: "I Predict a Riot" by Kaiser Chiefs. If that's a copyrighted song, sorry, can't sing it or play it. I don't even know it. I don't think, unless I heard a tune.
I predict a riot. I predict a riot.
Yeah. I'm not a political historian, but generally speaking, at the midterm of a presidential term, the opposing party usually picks up some more seats. It's kind of a balancing act. Not always, but sometimes.
Mm.
So
will the GOP lose any of the arms of government?
Of the arms of what was it? Monkey's so much better at this than I am. So. There's the two branches of Congress. You have the Senate and the House.
Mm.
I think that the GOP will, and by all means, anybody in the chat who knows this better than I do, correct me. I think that the current predictions are they will retain the Senate. Retain the House, but may lose the Senate. So since all of our laws have to go through this two-step process, whichever one goes away, it'll become more difficult for things that are the priority of the GOP or the president to make their way through the process.
So it's really in the best interest of Trump's GOP to maintain, but you don't think that they will?
Well, if history is any predictor, the GOP will lose one of the two branches of Congress. And that will gum up the works. It won't necessarily deny everything, but at whichever point in the process that the Democrats may pick up, they can certainly stall things, if not clog it up altogether, and then we get gridlock on anything for the agenda of the administration. And I don't begrudge that mechanism of government. Sometimes that's what's needed. You can't necessarily let one administration ride roughshod over everything. But that also doesn't mean that just because a party has control of all of those areas, that anything gets done. Obama, when he came into office,
that anyway in the first 2 years of Trump's presidency, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, both in Trump's presidency and when Obama came into office with Democrats controlling both the House and the Senate. And yet when it came down to Obamacare and a whole bunch of other things, he couldn't get much of anything done because he couldn't get all the Democrats to agree with him or take the risks with him that he wanted to take. And Obama was still operating early on in those days, at least, under this notion that somehow he could be the great uniter and bring the Republicans on board, and that by doing so would bring some kind of grand gesture of compromise. Except the Republicans decided from day one there will be no compromise. Somehow Obama didn't get this memo for the longest time, it seemed. So yeah. Anyway, what else we got going on in the chat here? Let's see. Oh, they're still talking about the song I'm not singing. Okay, well, whatever you guys like.
Well, I know the Democrats and the GOP both have their own factions within them.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, well, just like with anything else, you've got conservative Democrats, you've got moderate Democrats, you've got liberal Democrats. Same thing with the conservatives. You've got liberal conservatives, moderate conservatives, and staunch conservatives. And so all these factions are fighting against each other. The problem is that from time to time, now we got a march of mostly women clad in black and wearing veils, marching along the steps of the Capitol building in line with their hands up, like in surrender almost. I'm assuming there's something written on their hands, probably "Me Too" or "Believe Survivors" or something. Hard to tell. Let's see. They're wearing shirts that say, I'm trying to see, the camera's moving in now. November is coming. Very Game of Thrones of them. Something about let's see, I'm trying to see this. I am a Kavanaugh. Sorry, I am a survivor, and for crying out loud. There's so many signs, and the camera person's doing a lousy job. There's a lot of messages on these shirts. I am a survivor, and I survive? Or
screen share, perhaps? Or share with me?
I'm a little nervous to screen share just because of privacy stuff. I don't know what's on my screen at any one time. I don't want there to be like a folder that shows up saying Jim on there like Sargon. I'm a survivor, and I'm a survivor and I vote. And on their hands they have things like "Believe Survivors," "I will vote," etc. So, and they have tape over their mouths. And also, I don't know if I can screen share and not risk some kind of copyright strike or something if I show their footage.
You could link me.
It's true. So I will put the link to the stream I'm looking at into the chat so that anybody who wants to look at what I'm looking at can do so right now. And presumably that link will be good even after the stream ends because, yay, YouTube.
Ah, shit. I forgot to open a new tab.
But anyway, yeah, so now the question becomes, does this entire ideological battle that we've seen here turn into fodder for the GOP or the Democrats? Does this electrify the GOP base to fight against the Democrats, who have been painted, and perhaps rightly so, as being cruel and obstructionist and using dirty tactics to try to manipulate the process? Or does the confirmation of Kavanaugh embolden the hearts of the Democrats, the liberals, etc., to really come out in force and tip the scales November to try to stop Trump from doing anything like this in the future?
I think the Democrats would definitely try to weaponize this entire situation.
Well, I mean, both sides are going to try to capitalize.
And the GOP will, of course. Well, there'll be lots of propaganda, if you like, lots of memes and stuff floating around of you know, quote unquote libtards get wrecked.
Mm-hmm.
Look at these you know, irrational, you know, illogical lunatics with the ridiculous signs and the tape over their mouth. Don't vote. Don't vote for them. Vote Republican to keep, you know, keep the salt flowing.
Yeah, and anybody listening right now, trust me, there's no notion in my mind that there, on either side of the political spectrum, there are any harps or halos here. No matter what you might think about Kavanaugh, the process that put him into place, etc. Both sides, from this point onward, now that the vote is done, will be doing everything they can to leverage this in their campaign ads and everything else. This person voted for Kavanaugh, you need to get rid of them. This person did not vote for Kavanaugh, you need to get rid of them, etc. So we'll see. And I've invited someone else because apparently I just hate Americans today.
You invited Tailed.
You're psychic, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, you're psychic. I only have 4 friends. There's only so many people who can tolerate me, I think.
Oh, I feel good about that, being one of the few that Scribe tolerates.
Let's see. And Seeking Origin says, yes, there were 50 votes in the positive and 48 votes in the negative. I think it was probably Flake and Collins that tipped the balance. There was even an article I saw yesterday that's like, what will happen if there's a 50-50 vote in the Senate? And I thought, well, Mike Pence, the vice president, will break the tie, as is his purpose as vice president, and Kavanaugh will be confirmed. What's the mystery there? So yeah, that's the other function of the only real function of the vice president, unless you're Dick Cheney, is to break ties in the Senate and sit in for the president if something happens to him. That's about it. Let's see. They're still waiting to see if something's going to happen at the Capitol. With as much security as is around, I don't imagine we'll see anything crazy happening there. Now, the other question is anything starting up elsewhere in the country? I'm trying to see if there's any
rioting going on.
Well, I mean, if there are any protests that turn into something more than simple marches and chants and things, we might not hear about it right away, unless somebody's got a line into somebody tweeting live from, you know, Oregon or something. Because I assume if there's going to be a riot or something crazy going on, I would assume Portland would be the first place to look to. They tend to take their stuff very seriously. Let's see. Maybe Taylor is sleeping.
There was a chap there putting his fingers up.
Oh,
there's somebody there.
Oh yeah. A grandpa in the hat. I think grandpa in the hat might be a conservative.
Well, I can't hear what's going on, so I don't know what he's like swearing at.
No, all I can hear is the person on the podium.
I'm trying to have a look at these signs. Can't make out that one on the left. Nothing artificial. Indelible. What the fuck does that one say? SCOTUS. Something. It's too damn white.
Yeah. Indelible. I don't know what that. Yeah, I think you know, if nothing else, the signs themselves, if they could be collected after some of these protests and sort of put into a collage, you might have a really interesting piece of historical art right there.
Yeah,
sort of a snapshot of what was going on in people's minds, and not the produced ones that look like they're off a printer at a professional place. I'm talking about the, like, handwritten ones, the ones where people. Let's see. Flake lied to women. Raise the sign higher, old lady. Come on. Women in the elevator. Flake lied to women in elevator. Yeah, so for those of you that don't, I mean, if you want to keep up with this, Jeff Flake was confronted in an elevator shortly after the hearings where the testimony was given. And he was confronted by a woman who I think was one of the people who was speaking at this protest just earlier. And he was confronted by women who were saying, we're survivors and you don't believe us. And, you know, you voting for Kavanaugh, supporting him is a vote against us, yada, yada. It was shortly thereafter that Flake leveraged what power he had with some other senators to get the supplemental FBI investigation going.
Sorry, Scribe, I just need to see the missus out. She's off to work, maybe.
Sure, yep. But let's see. I'll take a look at the chat real quick. Like I say, guys, I'm not going to be on here forever, but Older Mine asks, Scribe, do you think Ruth Bader Ginsburg will actually resign? No, I don't think she'll resign. I'm pretty sure she's not going to resign. I would imagine the only thing that would take her off the bench is her health. That's it. I don't think anything else would do it. I think she's committed. I don't have anything against Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I really don't have anything against any of the Supreme Court justices. They're in a job. They do a job. They put on their pants one leg at a time every day, just like everybody else. Yeah, I mean, these things, every time a new Supreme Court justice is put up there, I mean, especially from a conservative or a Republican president. I mean, Samuel Alito, when he was put up there, John Roberts, when he was put up there, the Democrats went nuts. Oh, my God. They're going to take away abortion rights and they're going to, put guns in the hands of everybody. But then, of course, when Sonia Sotomayor comes up, it's like, oh, she's going to take away gun rights, and she's going to do blah, 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 or she's going to rule in the favor of illegal immigrants and yada, yada. Each side has their own paranoias and their own propaganda whenever something like this happens to try to scare one part of the electorate or the other and try to make hay out of it. I'm not that impressed. I'm sort of like Monkey. I find it more entertaining than anything else in sort of a very sarcastic and sardonic way, because that's really the only way you can come to politics, I think.
It's quite interesting as British politics has become more, dare I say, Americanized in recent years.
Yeah, and, more flashy.
Yeah, a lot more flashy. I think it was David Cameron who was probably one of the first, at least I think, to hire an American campaign manager.
I don't know. I think Tony Blair started it. I think Tony Blair, with the influence of Bill Clinton and those guys being such buddies, I think Tony Blair was the first rock star prime minister of Britain in the modern era.
Yeah, that's probably true. I don't know whether he hired any American campaigners. He might have done, though.
Yeah, I don't know if he hired any American campaigners, but I think some of Clinton's panache he might have either emulated or had rubbed off on him when they met and had conversations and such. Or at least his association with it, and especially after 9/11, when he became sort of like, the face of Britain in this new global conflict, and really the primary ally to America in that time for everything. His profile raised, and also so too did the need of the next guy in line to take his place, to try to, that's the new bar you got to meet. I honestly thought for a time, and this was several years ago now, I honestly thought for a time that Nigel Farage might end up as prime minister, just on the basis of his rhetoric and his flash.
Well, I mean, he'd have to become, his party would have to be voted in.
Right, exactly. I just thought that just by his sort of impact rhetorically at the EU. Oh, and now the live stream has ended. I guess maybe that was it. So the Global News has ended their coverage of the protests. I'm looking around to see if there's anything from around the country on any other things going on. But any reports on live events might not show up for a while.
I'd give it maybe half an hour to an hour, to be honest.
Oh, here's Oregon Live. Let's see if Oregon Live has anything. Stop Kavanaugh protest draws out stories from survivors, calls to action. We're not talking about any rioting or property damage yet. And this is from yesterday anyway, so that's not. But why would you call yourselves Oregon Live if you don't have anything live going on? just wondering.
Surely one of these like higher profile mainstream news sort of channels has got something.
Oh, perhaps so. Let's see. Go to the chat for a second. Original Stream says, Scribe, the problem or the truth of it is there is a much greater chance of the left taking away Second Amendment rights than there is of Roe being overturned. I doubt it, because that would require a constitutional revision, and there's no way the Congress will ever do that. The passing laws that employ more restrictions or more loopholes to try to get to owning a gun, etc. Sure, you can see that. And the argument that the Second Amendment says, those rights shall not be infringed. Well, obviously, they're infringed because convicted felons can have their firearms rights taken away, so on. So that concession's already been made through established law. So, yeah, making it more difficult to own a gun, sure. Completely taking away the ability to own a gun, never going to happen. So, what else?
Everything that I've seen regarding gun control in America has usually been pushed by the Democratic side. They've never been able to take it fully away, but they have applied a fair amount of restrictions on what you can and can't have.
Yeah.
The slow
let's
erosion,
see.
very slow erosion.
Kingslayer Damocles says, have you read some of the Sotomayor decisions? She is like a left-wing ideologue. Well, tell me about Scalia and how he wasn't a right-wing ideologue on a lot of things. So you're always going to have people on one side or the other on the court, and their opinions may change over time. They might become more moderate, or they might decide to stay very one side or the other to try to balance it out. I don't mind there being one or two, far whichever direction on the court. It shouldn't be homogenous in ideology or otherwise. I don't want everything to go one way. So you might say, well, then why aren't you more upset that Kavanaugh's on the court if it's going to become a conservative majority? Well, a conservative majority in name, perhaps, but have you seen John Roberts' decisions on some things? There are justices on the Supreme Court that people have classified in this binary way, and I know using the word binary is scary these days, but still as conservative or liberal. And yet you see quote-unquote conservative judges making a sense or otherwise to things that would be liberal causes, like same-sex marriage, like Obamacare. So, the people on the Supreme Court aren't dumb. They can read the tea leaves just as much as anybody else. Unless they are completely in the tank and they are blind to nothing other than one ideology, sure, you could have a danger there. But I don't think so. Not in this instance, not right now, and not over the course of time in a job where you don't have anything to worry about other than your decision to retire. But that's me. Maybe I'm just being idealistic. I don't know.
It was mentioned earlier that Jordan Peterson was like, Kavanaugh, if he gets confirmed, should step down.
Yeah, I saw that. I never saw if he gave what his rationale was for that.
I do follow him on Twitter as well, but I didn't see anything earlier.
Yeah.
Do you think that would be something that he should do, or do you think that's just completely stupid?
Well, no, because so far, as we've gone with everything else, he hasn't been convicted of anything. Nothing has been shown to prove that he did anything untoward in his youth. Prior to this letter being released by Dianne Feinstein at the 11th hour, he was just another Supreme Court nominee with a controversial fight, just like the last Supreme Court nominee with a controversial fight, or the one before him. And you say, oh, well, Merrick Garland wasn't let in. The Republicans blocked him. Yeah, and they played dirty pool to do it. I'm not praising the Republicans for doing the same thing, except, at least they didn't try to tear the guy down and turn him into a rapist. That doesn't say much for the Democrats, obviously, but these games are played all the time, except that now the Democrats really ratcheted up the methods by which they decided to do it. And I'm really curious to see what happens with the next Supreme Court nominee, whether it's Trump that does it or a Democratic president the next time around. So let's see. Stargazer Nuts says it's BS. He hasn't done anything to warrant him stepping down, and I don't imagine that he will. His statement at the beginning of his testimony was, "I'm not going to quit." And like Monkey said last night, or maybe it was earlier today. It's starting to run together. Monkey streams so much. There was probably a belief on the Democratic side that he would recuse himself or remove his name from consideration because of the pressure, and they didn't know what to do when he didn't. So no, I think from his perspective, I would assume that the FBI report and his being confirmed to the Supreme Court is a validation of a kind of his position and argument. Now, will this follow him the rest of his life? Yep.
Yeah.
At any point that he comes up in the media And it'll fade over time, sort of like Clarence Thomas, because the guy's got a lifetime appointment. But if any cases reach the Supreme Court dealing with women's rights in any way, shape, or form, both he and Clarence Thomas will come up in reference to this. Probably Kavanaugh more so, since he's fresher in the memories of people. But it doesn't matter, because he's in the job, and short of being impeached, which I don't see happening given that he was just confirmed. Yeah.
Do you think any more accusations will pop up now?
Sure. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but it'll be all for naught. And short of someone coming forward with enough evidence to actually charge him with a crime.
Yeah,
it'll
just doubt there is. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can't say whether I doubt or not. Stranger things have happened. But the likelihood at this point, if someone actually had some tangible evidence of him having done some wrongdoing, I don't know. I mean, you never know. I don't want to say anything with any certainty, but will more things come out or more things be accused? Maybe. Will anything of substance, anything substantive come out? Probably not.
You just had to, didn't you?
Let's see. Well, I mean, I can't not find a reason to use that word either when you're around, or even if you're not. I mean, if I'm talking about something, maybe you're not around for this on some of the Lords of the Night streams, but if that word comes into play in an appropriate context, I'll use it, and then I'll slightly go aside and say irate bear, and then I'll move on.
You know, it's even worse for me, because sometimes when I feel the need to use that word, I'll stop and I'll pause for a second.
I'm giving you a complex. I love it.
And I'll think about it. I'll think, do I want to use this word?
Hey, Tailed, I sent you the link if you're not paying attention to your Twitter. I'm not going to be doing this much longer because I got to save my voice for tonight. But if you want to come on for a minute, by all means. Jean-Pierre asks, Scribe, will Dianne Feinstein be investigated? No, I doubt it. I'm not sure whether or not her withholding the letter will come up as a subject for censure, and that's about all they could really do or would really do. At this point, I think the Republicans would probably want to let this die as quickly as possible. Tail feature. I have nothing to add to this situation. I haven't been paying attention to it. Oh, okay, well, that's fine. That's fine.
We can always talk about the wild haggis for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm probably going to wrap this up within the next 10 or 15 minutes, guys, just because, I don't have much more to say about this than hasn't already been said here or on Monkey Stream earlier today or on the last 7 Lords of the Night streams, because and last night, and I know some people won't hear this, but I got to apologize a little bit. I was a little short with Monkey and Satsu last night, because every time Kavanaugh came up, they just started going, and I was like, we have to stop this. we had an entire show the week before of nothing but talking about Kavanaugh. We said to hell with the format and just yapped about it for about 2 hours straight. And I was like, last night, there's other stories. People have sent us MSS News stuff, and at least half of our show is our audience, both generated by in the stories they send and the questions they ask. And I feel obligated, if not determined, to make sure that at least something like half of the show is dedicated to our audience's input.
I understand, Scribe. Yeah. I'm a slave to the format as well. So maybe not your format though. But my format, yes.
I'm sorry, I missed this. Gutenberg's in the chat. Okay, well, I'll get a real American in here for a few minutes then, if he wants to.
Why? You're not a real American?
Well, I mean, a real American guest. Thank you, Nope. November polls have swung over 10 points towards the Republicans since this Kavanaugh thing started. I don't think Republicans want this to go away. Yeah. Well, I think within their procedural stuff, they don't want it to go away. As far as campaign fodder, yeah, they don't want it to go away. But as far as their own personal lives or being more dragged into the mud in the press by doing things that are high profile. So if Mitch McConnell came out tomorrow and moved to censure Dianne Feinstein, okay, Mitch McConnell would suddenly be a rape apologist, and here's how the Republican majority treats women, et cetera, et cetera. So on the procedural end, I think the Republicans are going to back away from this. As far as the political operatives and the campaigns and stuff, sure, this is golden for them if they can leverage it. So yeah. What else do we have? Let's see. Johnny Hellcat said, "Is it possible to care any less?" Well, like I said, I don't care about Kavanaugh. I'm more curious and fascinated by the political stuff and the addition to the culture war that we're having by this, and just how people have lost their senses of rationale.
It certainly feels like it's ramping up.
Yeah, again. I just and over something that is as fundamentally basic as the presumption of innocence. I mean, I said this earlier today. You want to talk about one of the foundationary building blocks of Western civilization, or any real civilization, let's say. You know, thou shalt not bear false witness. You know, if you don't have any evidence to back up an accusation against somebody, you are not in a good position to have that person punished. The idea that people are just throwing that out the window and saying, "Oh, this wasn't a criminal trial." Yeah, but why don't you apply that in your real life? I mean, apply it to something like, you know, somebody, like I said earlier today.
I would say that it's not. Sorry to interrupt you there, Scribe, but I'd have to jump in there. Even that, yeah, it's not a criminal trial, but is it being played to a court? Yes, the court of public opinion.
It's being played to a court, and it's not necessarily something. And here's the other thing too. In the case of Kavanaugh, if someone were to take an accusation as enough evidence to proceed with something, Maryland has no statute of limitations on sexual assault. So conceivably, Kavanaugh could still be indicted if some prosecutor decided that Dr. Ford and her shaky testimony was enough to move forward. And you might say, oh, well, you know, that's not going to happen because her evidence wasn't heavy enough to do that. Well, we just had a story of 4 dentists in Las Vegas being brought all the way up to being charged with rape before the video came out that exonerated them. So, you know, someone can be thrown into the legal system without any backup evidence in this country. It can happen. People can be railroaded. So it's not an unreasonable concern for someone to say, well, yeah, this isn't a criminal trial yet. So anyway. What else?
I would also argue that it's more dangerous.
Yeah, and besides which, even if you don't are brought up on criminal charges, this stuff doesn't go away. In the internet era, if you have your name attached to something as awful as sexual assault or rape or theft, anything, and anybody decides to Google you in the future, it's on the permanent record. You can't have this stuff erased anymore. It doesn't fade from memory on the digital plane. So, you know, entire jobs, livelihoods could be ruined over simple accusation. If you want to have a really good example of this, recent case in Canada, there was a talk show host. His name was Jian Ghomeshi. Jian Ghomeshi. I think I'm saying that correctly. He was host of a show called Q, which is like Question. And he was very famous, very well known. And then he was accused of having choked a woman or sexually assaulted her and all this. The CBC fired his ass almost immediately. And when the case eventually went to court, the women who were accusing him were all found to have not only colluded on working to try to bring him to court, but also had all the evidence in the world shown to them in court about how they were lying. And the judge in the case was furious at them for, you know, being essentially deceiving. So. But now, being acquitted of the charges, does that mean Jian Ghomeshi got his career or his reputation back? Nope.
Of course he hasn't.
I mean, he practically went into hiding. I only think in the last few months has he done anything of note. But yeah, his entire career, his entire reputation down the toilet. And over something that was demonstrably shown to have been not only a lie, but a conspired lie to try to bring down a guy because they didn't like the fact that he dumped them, basically. So anyway,
and then, unless you have some kind of redemption story, you know, printed about you, you know, you won't change those opinions. Well, unfortunately.
Yeah, but how do you redeem yourself from something you didn't do?
Well, I'm using the wrong word.
Oh, here. I know. I wasn't
what I mean.
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah. Yeah.
That's how it would be perceived to be a redemption, if it's a redemption story. Even though he's not redeeming himself or anything, it would be, that's the only word I can think of to describe like a way of clearing him in the court of public opinion.
Yeah. Nope. Says Scribe, is that true? Since he was a minor at the time this allegedly happened. I don't know. I don't know if I mean we've seen minors be charged as adults in the past. Perhaps the threat of an actual criminal case against him is not as heavy, but all the same, if it had been if the allegation had been said to have occurred 4 years after the fact in 1986 rather than 1982, you know, so it's a very fine line. Anyway, guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up here because honestly, aside from the fact that the vote happened, he's been confirmed as for justice in the United States. Short of impeachment, which will has a 0.000001% chance of ever happening. The story's over. Now the only question is, what happens in the elections upcoming?
Well, a Scribe hopes the story's over, but you know it's going to dominate Lords of the Night.
Well, no. Well, no. The story of whether or not he will be confirmed is over. That's all I mean. It's done.
Yeah.
That story is done. What is made of it in the coming weeks up to the elections, and of course, all that happens afterwards, is what we don't know yet, and will be entertaining after a fashion to watch, and will go on forever because politics knows no bounds. So. Otherwise, guys, Bear, thank you for joining me briefly as it was to chit chat.
Oh, thank you for inviting me on, Scribe. It's always a pleasure.
And everyone, thank you for joining me for this impromptu little report. I'm sure if anything else happens in relation to this, protests or riots or anything else, we will certainly cover them tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on Ranting Monkeys channel for Lords of the Night. So I hope to see you there. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Thank you to everyone who donated. I really appreciate it. I am set for Dr. Pepper and Jack Daniels for at least another 2 weeks. So other than that, thank you again, Bear, and everyone else. We will talk to you later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.